Are you looking to invest in Florida land and want to make sure you don't end up with a swamp? My name is Felicia. I'm a partner and co-founder at Compass Land USA. We have bought and sold hundreds of properties in Florida and understand how to identify and avoid wetlands. If you give me just a few minutes of your time here today, I'm going to show you how to quickly find out if your Florida property is in a wetlands so you can feel really prepared and comfortable with your next land investment. Okay, so it is Florida. Wetlands are common. The whole state is hovering just about sea level, right? So you can find wetlands outside of the state of Florida, but it's really more common here than it is in the northern states. So first, I'm going to quickly tell you what wetlands are, why they're actually important, how to check for wetlands using some free resources, and then what to do if your property is in a wetlands and how it affects building on it. So in Florida, we have a couple of different types of wetlands to consider. Generally speaking, wetlands are areas of land that have constant or near constant soil saturation, and they commonly occur in transition areas where bodies of water meet up with land. So on the screen here, you can see Everglades National Park. This is the most famous example of a wetlands. And there are different types depending on the location. So there are like tidal salt marshes, mangrove swamps, which are kind of more coastal. And then inland, you have southern swamps, freshwater marshes, and riparian. And of course, the Everglades we have up on the screen again. Beautiful, but not a place you would want to be building your house, right? So a lot of waterfront properties in Florida do contain wetlands, and some signs for wetlands can include standing water on the soil surface, soil saturation marks on trees and rocks, sediment deposits, and aquatic plants like mangroves. That's kind of a high-level explanation for what wetlands are. We don't really need to get too caught up into the weeds or minute details of it. So wetlands are important because they serve essential environmental functions. They filter water, they help with flood and erosion control, and they also provide habitat to very specific species of plants and animals. And if you don't really care about that stuff, they are still important to you because they are protected by state and federal law, even when it's located on private property. So wetlands can't be filled or developed without special permitting. And if you do try to do that without the permits, you're looking at fines in the tens of thousands of dollars. So it's really expensive, and you don't want to skip that or do anything illegal. So how do you figure out if your property is in wetlands? Well, I have a couple of free resources for you to use as rough guides. If you are looking for an answer with 100% certainty, you're going to need to hire a private surveying company to do delineation. So delineation is a process used to identify and mark the boundaries of a wetlands area. You have to have delineation performed before you get issued any permits, including building and developing permits. So if you're in that boat, you're going to need to hire a surveyor for the delineation. I personally have not had this done on any of my properties, but from what I gather, wetland delineation for like a quarter acre, half acre property, you're looking at anywhere from $500 to $1,500. And then obviously you can expect the price to scale up from there with acreage size. So if you do have any experience with wetland delineation, maybe if you've had this done or if you know of a really great surveyor, please leave a comment. Let me know how that went for you. I would love to hear any suggestions that you have. If you're just browsing for property or you want the property as a long-term investment, these tools that I'm about to show you will work really well. They'll serve you well as a rough guide. So the first tool is the Wetlands Mapper. That is this guy here. And this one is great. It comes directly from the US Fish and Wildlife Service. I know they updated this last in October of 2020, so it is pretty current. So when you come onto the page here, scroll down, these are the instructions, and then step 3, if you click on the image, it'll bring you right to the mapper. So yes, we accept your terms. And while that loads, I'm just going to head over to one of our properties to grab an address that we can use as an example. Scroll down here to the details. Here we go. So I'll copy this. Now, if you don't have an exact address, you can either just use the street name, or you can actually just grab a neighboring address. Like if there's a house on a property nearby, just use that and it'll bring you in so you can kind of pinpoint and go from there to use the mapper. Okay, so we're loaded. So now we're going to come over to Find Location and we're going to paste our address and click Go. So this map is pretty cool because you can zoom out and see how big each of these zones are and what the neighboring zones are. So the center, it doesn't label it, but right in the center here is where the property is. We'll open the legend as well. So we can see this property is not in a wetlands. It's free and clear, but there are neighboring wetlands nearby. So we have freshwater. That blue one there looks like a riverine. And this is, again, really cool because if you click on the wetlands, it'll bring up this information box for you. So you'll be able to see how big it is, what the classification is. You can also get descriptions, reports, all that kind of stuff. So this is actually a really great free tool. They give away a lot of information for you. And it's also a good kind of sanity checkpoint. If you are going to use a surveyor for delineation, you'll at least have some idea of what to expect, see how their reports kind of line up with this, and you have something to go off of. So like I said, you can zoom out, see the whole area. Like this blue, this is a canal. This is all canals, so that makes sense. And then we have a couple patches throughout here, but it seems to be mostly fine. There's lots of houses built up elsewhere. I'm really not too worried about this. So that's the first resource. There is a second free resource. I have it open in this tab here. It's for Google Earth. So I'm not going to actually go through the exercise, but what you can do is download the KML file and open this up on your desktop in Google Earth and view it that way. You can still search by address. I don't know if it has the same classification box as the online Wetlands Mapper, so I can't answer that. But I'll make sure that the description or the link rather, for this KML download is in the description of the video for you. So another option I want to mention really quick, and I'm going quick over this because I am not an expert in it, is wetland mapping from a soils perspective. Honestly, I do not have personal experience with this, but I just wanted to share it as an option in case it interests you. So from a soils perspective, you need a couple critical factors to have a wetlands. You obviously need soil, you need hydrology, so water, it needs to be saturated, and you need vegetation. So like I said, the soil does need to be saturated. It can be either an organic soil like a peat or more of a mineral-based soil. The US Department of Agriculture has a soil survey tool that's free to use. So you access it from this point. And again, I'll make sure that this is in the description of the video for you if you want to use it. But here it is. So we click here to access the database. Okay, so we can see they keep this resource current as well, last updated end of December 2020. Close this. So it's kind of the same idea. You come into the database, you can search by address here. And we can see what happens. So we'll click view. And then it pinpoints the property for you. And from there, you can go into, the soil map, soil data explorer tabs at the top. You can download the data so you can kind of dive into it that way, if that's something that you're interested in. By the way, the Army Corps regulates wetlands, administers delineations and permits, so you will have to communicate with them at some point if you want to move forward with developing wetlands. So because of the protections on wetlands and the characteristics of the soil, it's very difficult to build. Honestly, building on wetlands, in my personal opinion, maybe not the best idea. You will be fighting back against water probably for the rest of your life if you choose to live there. You will constantly be worried about whether or not your basement is going to flood, or your living room for that matter. So knowing all that, can you build on wetlands? Yes, you can. Should you? I can't answer that for you. You have to consider the property, the risks, and how much work you're willing to do. I will say that if you do decide to build on wetlands, you should definitely find a builder or developer that has experience doing that. That way they'll be able to help you out, and at least they'll know a handful of things to watch for when doing construction. If you have ever built on wetlands, or you know someone who has, please leave a comment below. Let me know how that went. I personally don't know anyone, so I'd be really interested to hear how that worked out. Okay, so there you have it. You know roughly what wetlands are, how to identify them, and use mapping tools and surveyors to locate them, and some of the very high-level building implications that you would have to address. I hope you found this video helpful. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching and for taking the time to educate yourself on becoming a smarter Florida land buyer. Please don't forget to leave a comment. Let me know if this was useful for you, and make sure you subscribe to our channel. We do lots of informative land buying videos like this, as well as some pretty cool custom property tour videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.